Good afternoon. My name is Diana Burnwood, and you are watching Inside the Game.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have two very special guests with me today. I have the legendary Jane Perry and David Bateson joining me. You know them as Agent 47 and Diana Burnwood.
You got my message.
You'd never get caught on camera. Not unless you wanted to be seen. So what's the play?
You're not the only one who's been busy, 47.
Games are difficult. They can become legendary as well. And we've seen the rise of Agent 47 and Diana Burnwood with the fact even getting her own level this time around with Hitman 3. Which I found was very fascinating. I thought, wow. There's a lot of twists and turns this time around. What was the hardest part about working on Hitman 3 versus past projects?
Well, yeah. Let's put it this way. When I said my last words, which I record over about a 6-month period, somewhere between 4 and 6. It was closer to 6 months with the callbacks, where I, do it like a 4-hour sitting, and then I'll see you in 6 to 8 weeks, and then back again, and so on. I took a selfie. I'm such a teenager. No, I took a selfie in the sound box. I'm just alone, just trying to capture what I was feeling, and I can't show that photograph basically to anyone because you can too clearly see what I was feeling, and that was for me was in the back of my mind through the whole thing was that, oh, where do we go from here, and how long are we going to have to wait before we get to play with Agent 47 again? So I had it's not difficult. I don't know how you find it, Jane, but I just love doing it. Saying the lines, turning up and going, hey.
Yeah, I love it too. And I felt that was the hardest thing about Hitman 3 was knowing that it was over, and just the sadness that brought about, because and it's so funny working on computer games because you're in a session, they'll say, okay, this is your last session. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it is.
And they just kind of let you know without appreciating the fact that actually that might be really hard to hear. And then of course it never is your last session, because at the last minute you have to go in and do a few pickups. So you show up again, you're like, hi everybody. And and then at some point it is your last session, and you sort of walk away feeling like, when you finish a play or a film or TV series, there's always a wrap party, there's some ritual, there's a celebration, right, that allows you to let go of it. And in computer games, that doesn't seem to exist somehow. And David, I was telling Drew before we got started here that I was really looking forward to coming to Copenhagen for the release party for Hitman 3.
Yeah.
Just to turn it into that for myself, and also to meet you in person, David, and everybody else who's worked, behind the scenes on Hitman. So I think, Drew, that was the hardest thing about Hitman 3 is just the fact that was it.
Yeah, it's kind of a stamped squid, wasn't it?
That's it, exactly.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I'll see you around. Oh no,
we're both wounded. We're like, especially you, David. You've given 21 years of your life, and you're like, see you later.
Yeah, I'll see you in the next life. Strength and honor. No, I mean, the game ends on a positive note. It's good to be back.
Yeah.
So let's see how long it's good to be back is. And of course, if they reboot it with a couple of teenagers, we're screwed.
Damn those teenagers. Damn the teenagers. No.
I've got them all over this house. Damn it.
I love teenagers.
Jane and I were talking off camera, and she mentioned the fact that you two have actually never met. How? Which to me seems odd, because it's you two in most of the games. Like, a lot of the games are you two going back and forth and having that conversation. It feels like you are just on a phone call. or in the next room together, or you know what I mean? You have such a connection. How do you guys get that connection and yet have still never met?
Well, I think I have a slight advantage. I don't know how you feel, Jane, but I mean, I'm doing my lines still mainly in isolation, but at least with the cinematics, which are really kind of, I'm looking at them pretty close to being finished, or I get to hear your dulcet tones in my earphones. So, so that is so cool. Not every time, but sometimes, and also other times, I get to say, "Hey, listen, where are we now? Are we? Oh, we're on the beach. Okay, so there's crashing waves, and Diana's on my headset, but I probably have to talk a little louder over there because I'm right down by the shoreline. Or, you know, can I hear her? And then I hear you going, don't do that. I wouldn't do that if I was you. Whatever. And sorry, you don't sound like that at all. But the point being, otherwise it is. Hey, when we did that interview earlier this year, and we got together, and I could see, hey, there's John, and there's Phil, and there's Jay. Hi, and we were almost hysterical because it's such a lonely experience.
Through the way it works usually is, and I think David, because you're the star of the show, you probably get to hear more of the actors than maybe the rest of us do. But the way it works, Drew, is they give you a spreadsheet, which is just your lines. And so you go into the studio, and we have amazing directors working on HITMAN who will give us the context. And usually the writer is on the line as well, patched in from Copenhagen. So we'll get amazing context for what's happening in the scene. But what we don't have necessarily are our fellow performers. So it requires a kind of filling in of the blanks, as it were. And I think really what helps this connection that we have is probably the experience that we've had working on the game for all these years, understanding our characters so well, understanding really what this relationship is about. So, in acting, you're not really meant to anticipate what's coming your way, but I think in computer games, sometimes you don't have a chance because you don't have your fellow performer there with you. So we use that familiarity that we have with the game to breathe life into the conversations. And occasionally I do get to hear you, David, and that is such a treat because then we get to work off each other. It's great.
I had no idea, because I'm assuming that I'm recording towards the end of the process.
Yeah.
Where there's been most of the recordings happened at the side studio in London or sometimes in LA.
With you guys working from home right now with the pandemic going on, did you see a change at all with what you normally would do for voice acting in the industry at all?
You go first, Jane.
I think it's going to change things. I mean, I've been quite busy working from home. And as I was saying to you, Drew, before, I feel incredibly grateful for that. I had a studio sort of set up and ready to go. So I was able to just maintain my momentum in my voiceover career, which was a great gift. And I think that COVID is probably going to change things in the voice industry because so many voice actors are now working out of their homes. And I think we've realized that, actually that works okay. There's, actors have pretty good studio setups, and it's just opened things up a little bit. So it'll be really interesting to see what it's going to all look like in 2 years. I think it's also lovely to go into a studio and to see, the sound engineers and the producers and everybody who's there. It's community, right? And we all need that and love that in our lives. But there's something to be said for trundling downstairs in your pajamas and putting your headphones on and little vocal warm up, of course, and then do your thing
without video. You're right. I went into town to do a voiceover yesterday, and it was just such a weird. Well, it was nearly a weird experience because I hadn't done that for. I can't really remember.
Yeah.
Make sure to come back next week as we finish our interview with Jane and David talking about Hitman 3, and we also hit them up with some fan questions.